We are happy to announce the release of our latest book, Overcoming Mediocrity, Epic Women. This book features 17 women who know what it's like to disrupt the status quo and overcome challenges that, at the time, seemed impossible to face. Yet they did. They were epic. And they're sharing their stories of courage, strength, and perseverance with you today. Plus, this incredible book also includes free gift downloads and buckets of wisdom as these experts share tips on how they've become successful in impacting the world in such a powerful way. Tips you can apply to your life today. Visit ombook.org to get your very own copy.
You know what I learned about story? No matter how confident you are or how scared you are about sharing your story, you're never going to realize the power your story has on others until you share it. Hi, my name is Christie Ruffino, and I've been helping women and a few men share their stories for almost 12 years. And what I'm so excited about is now I've taken my proven formula and combined it with AI. And I have a workshop coming up in just a few weeks that's going to walk you step by step to writing your signature story. So whether you just want to share your story to leave a bigger legacy in the world, or you want to leverage it to build your business brand, attract your ideal clients, and use it as your powerful message in the world, join me for my story writing workshop, where I am going to really, it's a hands-on 4-hour experience where you're going to walk away with your story written. As long as you bring your computer, an open mind, and a dedication to getting your story out in the world, we're going to make it happen. Just go to activatemystory.com to get your tickets today. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. This is a super exciting show today. Did you know that this show used to be called the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast? It was. I created it specifically to give the authors of our book project a platform to share their stories. We've since changed the name to Mastery Unleashed, but we haven't stopped producing these amazing co-authored books. And today I get to introduce you to a group of women that are sharing their stories in our Overcoming Mediocrity Epic Women book. Now, this is going to be the first part of a 3-part series, and every week I'll introduce you to a few more. And most of the women have a free gift that they're sharing with their story. So you can not only learn from them and be inspired from them, but you can have some steps, some actionable items that you can actually apply to your life right now. And so I want to just let you know that these women decided to say yes to share their story. They got out of their comfort zone. You know, it's really difficult to say yes to unveiling your dirty laundry to the world, but they decided that this was an important mission for them, and that they knew that if they would share their story and just one person would hear it, the right person would hear it, and it would change their life, then everything would be worth it. And that's what happened to me. I was asked to share my story about, 13 years ago. And my first reaction was no, but I ended up by saying yes. And it has been an amazing journey for me. Not only was that the idea that got me producing these co-authored books, but after I shared my story, about a year later, somebody reached out to me and said, Christie, thanks for sharing your story, because I was going through a really difficult time, and reading your story helped me kind of navigate my chaos. And so she was very grateful, and That's really the motivation. We're all doing this. We're all sharing our stories so we can help others. And typically, I don't share my story in my books anymore. I did for the first few, but a lot of things have happened over the last, 6 or 7 years. And I decided that it's time. It's time for me to share my story again. So if you're ready, I'm going to give you a little recap about my story. Hey kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? That's the question I just asked my kids, and one that I've asked myself several times over the course of my life. When I was young, I wanted to be as successful like my grandpa because he had it all: new car, brains, exotic vacations. And I thought that he was the bomb. And I could envision myself becoming him, but with high heels, makeup, and hair, of course. But then I got older and I gave up my dreams to help my family achieve theirs, because that's what we do. And I ended up by losing my dreams. I ended up by putting my dreams on hold. And then I was, in my late 30s, and my life just changed. My marriage ended and I was out trying to support my children, and my life became difficult. And so I had a long journey of trying to navigate a career, being a good mother, being a provider, paying the bills, and it was difficult. I found myself in a kind of a crazy situation where I was making great money, but my bills were so high, and my businesses showed a great revenue, but a very, very small profit. And so I ended up by spending years trying to dodge bankruptcy, navigate single parenting, and then finally figure out the right path to freedom. But I've given up my dreams because I really wasn't focusing on what I wanted to do. I was focusing on what I had to do. I had to pay bills. I didn't have the luxury of going out and having a career that lit me up. Until the dream. Now, don't get me wrong. I had a great business. I ended up by leaving the mortgage industry, leaving the recruiting industry. I mean, I evolved, and then I started a networking organization for women, and it was amazing. I mean, for 20 years, I've been helping women connect and network and meet more people to grow their businesses, and I loved that. But I wasn't really lit up by it. I didn't feel that I was really living into my full potential. I was just doing what I needed to do to pay the bills. And of course, I've been helping women share their stories, and that is always going to be a passion project of mine. I love helping women go from scared and nervous to feeling empowered by getting their story out there and building a platform where they can share their message and share their wisdom and build a successful business around that. I love that. However, I felt like an imposter. I felt like I was helping people actualize their dreams, and my dreams were still staying on the back burner. I kept thinking one day, someday, it would be my turn, and I just wasn't taking action. Again, until the dream. So I was on a business retreat, and I was way out of my comfort zone on many levels. I knew I needed to have things change in my life. I said yes to go on this, not because I could afford it, but because I needed to create some sort of different action in my life. I didn't actually know what was going to happen on this event. I just said yes and trusted the universe that it would all come to fruition. I prayed that I would find a new solution. And it didn't necessarily happen at first, but on one of the last evenings there, I woke up the next morning and I remembered this dream. Now, I usually don't remember my dreams, but this one was vivid, and it was very traumatic for me because it put a timetable under me. It lit a fire into my butt to make some serious changes. So I ended up by going home from that event. I told my children, my grown-up kids were still living at, well, they were, I called my kids boomerang kids. They leave and come back and leave and come back. And just at that time, they were both back. And I said, okay, guys, I'm moving. I didn't tell him where. I didn't really know where yet. I just knew I wanted to sell my house. Wanted to make change. So my daughter bought a house. My son navigated a different direction, and I sold almost everything I owned. I put some stuff in storage, and then I packed my little red Toyota Corolla and headed to Florida. Again, I didn't know what was going to be my future. I just took the first step and I took action. So a year and a half later, well, almost a year and a half later, I'm happy to say that I made the right decision. I was afraid at first. I drove out of the state almost the whole way crying uncontrollably because I left my family and my friends behind. But I knew I could always go back if I wanted to, but I knew I had to do something different. What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same things and expecting different results. Well, I wanted different results. So I went, I sold everything, and I embarked on a journey. And now I can confidently say that my life is on the fast track. I'm able to spend more time with the people I love and experience things I never was able to do before. And my journey has helped me create an amazing process to help others start living and prophetizing their purpose without having to take all of the drastic steps I did. And so the gift I'm giving with my story is a Prophetize Your Purpose Power Pack. And in that Power Pack, I've got, I think, 5 amazing things. So you definitely want to get this gift. The first thing you're going to get is an affirmation audio track. It's a 10-minute affirmation that I had made that I listen to every morning at 6:30. My alarm goes off, and instead of hearing beep, 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 it plays this 10-minute audio affirmation track. And it's amazing. It helps me get my day started strong and on the right path. So that is one of the free gifts you get in this Power Pack, as well as a micro course, a guide, a checklist, and a bunch of other things to help you prophetize your purpose too. So make sure you buy the book from one of the authors, and they'll all love to give you an autographed version. Reach out to any of them, and you can actually go to overcomingmediocrity.org and go to the book section and connect with the authors and buy it directly from them. And reach out to them, right? They'd love to send you an autographed copy, and you'll be able to get the gifts that not only I have, but all of the rest of the women are sharing with the book as well. So that is a little bit about my story. And now I have the honor of introducing you to 5 women. And the first is Kathryn Regganie. Welcome, Kathryn. I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, Christie. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I do appreciate it because I know you are traveling right now, and I know your husband's kind of like waiting for you to get back to him. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your travel schedule to join us. But you have a incredible story. And I know we met quite a few years ago in Toastmasters.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, and you have a great business. And I really have enjoyed working with you, helping you get your story out with the world. But let's not keep your story secret. What is your story about? And why did you decide that you wanted to write it at this point in your life?
Well, Christie, I know I've been following you and some of your other books as well, and I just had a feeling that this was really the time to do it. So when you had, sent me the email and suggested, you were looking for authors, I was like, okay, I think now is the time. So I jumped in, and I thought now was a really, really great time, just as I was transitioning with some other things. So it was perfect timing.
Yeah. And what is your story about?
Well, it's really interesting because I've been really focusing on working with resilient women leaders. And with the story that I put in the book this time, it was really about one of my stories about my resilience journey. And it's really about after my mom passed away, the difficult time I had, much more difficult than I ever thought was possible because, I'm a very spiritual person. Death to me is not necessarily a bad thing. But I think when it's your parent, when it's your mom, it just really threw me much harder than I thought it ever would. And then, can I get deeper into this story, like what I wrote in the book? and
Sure.
and then,
Well, and the lesson, like what, a little bit about your story and the lesson that you want to share with the audience.
okay. So, one of the biggest lesson, that my mom taught me, you'll read more about that in the book, but was really about the fact that we all are light. We all have a light within us, and we just have to remember that even though we feel like we are dull or maybe even extinguished, people can see us. People can see us.
Mm,
We are visible and we are bright. And so it is our journey, it's our job to keep that light shining brightly as we can. And just remember that it's okay to feel, it's okay to grieve, and get back to shining your light as quickly as possible.
that's so good. I know I can totally resonate with you. Losing my mom was, I think, one of the hardest things that I've ever gone through. And sometimes we of difficult times to kind of learn our own lessons, right? And learn how we can grow from that experience. And you obviously did that, and you wanted to share what you learned in this book.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really excited for people to read it and learn from it as well.
Yeah, and you've been doing a ton of great things. I've been kind of seeing you pop up on my feed here and there, and the events that you're hosting, and just you're all over the place. And I know you have this amazing gift that you're sharing with our audience that people that read your story are going to get this extra special gift from you. So can you tell the audience about what that is?
Yeah, I created a quiz, and it's actually called the Drama Dragon Quiz. And I
Ooh,
because when we go through some of these events in our life, even though we still have to keep going, we've got to keep our chin up and keep going, knowing what our drama dragons are can really, really help us navigate to get our heads back in the game and be as resilient as we can moving forward. So it's a really great opportunity to learn which drama dragon you might be.
I love that. I love being able to take quizzes that are custom designed to give unique results. So I know I took your drama dragon quiz when you first shared it, and it was really enlightening for me. So I really appreciate you putting that together and sharing that with everybody that buys the book.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christy.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. And next, I would like to introduce Anastasia Perez. Anastasia, welcome.
Thanks, Christy. So excited and happy to be here.
Yeah, and you're another busy woman. I know you were just sharing how all of the things you have to do with your like little movie star daughter and traipsing her around California for her interviews or her not interviews, what are they? The auditions. Auditions.
And
Yeah.
work. Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
addition to all my other, in addition to actually my stuff, right?
Yeah, well, that's what we do as good moms, right? But
That's what we do.
it's hard to juggle them all, but you were able to squeeze us in. So I do appreciate you, and I love that you joined our project and shared your story, because you definitely had a journey and a lot of great wisdom to share with our audience from that experience. So why don't you first, let's start with, why did you decide to join our project? Like what led you to say, yes, I want to share my story right now?
Great question. I feel like, being part of my life is being open to different opportunities as they present themselves. And it just seemed like the right time to share. I go into some personal details in the story that I wasn't quite maybe ready to share, but as this presented itself, I was like, okay, this is the time I'm supposed to do it. My whole story is about rising through fear to create the life you love on your terms. And like part of that is rising through the fear and being able to share my story too. And that was another fear. So, my story, like I said, that I was able to share in this project, which I'm super proud of, a little bit nervous to expose myself like this. But again, this is all part of taking those steps to really rise through the fear. And, we're all held back from fear many times throughout our lives, right? In many pivotal moments. This was yet another one, right? It's what we choose to do in the moments that really defines what happens next. Do we let fear keep us comfortably complacent, or do we rise through the fear and the doubt and the hesitation and the limiting self-belief to really grow and to experience that breakthrough growth? And this was yet another, choosing to do this book was yet another, but the story that I shared in doing so was my personal journey. I've built a career out of inspiring and motivating people to design the life they love on their terms. Okay. This is what I do. I'm a life designer. I've done it professionally. And from the outside looking in, I had done it personally, right? What people could see. But inside, I was feeling beyond stuck. I was feeling unfulfilled and unmotivated. And it wasn't until I had left speaking on a stage in front of thousands. I was actually, the irony, I was actually speaking on stage in front of thousands of people, inspiring them and motivating them on my story, on how I pushed through a kind of an unfulfilling career to break through into really being able to do what I do now. And I'm sitting there on the way home, and it's in the story more in detail, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, how can I authentically teach and inspire others to do this when I wasn't walking the walk, right? And that's what really, really hit me. And I share my personal and intimate and very, very intimate journey on how I was able to rise through that fear in my personal life, and really create an exciting life for my daughter and I, with endless possibilities. In the book, I'll provide you the same steps that I used to rise through, and you can apply it in anything, professionally, personally, but just anything that's really holding you back. So I'm excited. I'm excited to share. I'm excited to take things that I've learned that I have to continue going back to time and time again, to be able to just, okay, let's stay focused, identify the fear, embrace the pain, make the plan, boom, 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 and be able to move through.
Perfect. Yeah. That's really hard, because sometimes when we're going through something difficult and we do get on the other side, we know that journey can help others. I know when I shared my story the very first time over 10 years ago, maybe like 12 years ago now, I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to let everybody know what was behind the curtain. And I said no at first, but I ended up by saying yes. And what happened was, about a year after I shared my story, somebody reached out to me. So I thank you for kind of being vulnerable and fighting through the fear and sharing your story, because I know your story is going to help other people.
I hope so.
Yes, it's
I hope
going
so.
to.
Yeah.
It's going to. So we have an audience listening on the podcast today. And if somebody just wants to, if there's one person out there right now who feels stuck and unmotivated, what is the one piece of advice, maybe the first step, that you want them to take to break through to the other side?
That fear is a liar. Fear tells us things to hold us where we're at, and that there are beautiful, incredibly beautiful new beginnings right on that other side of fear. If you can just make the step and push through, there's incredibly beautiful things on the other side of that.
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. So we all know the typical acronym for fear, but I like to say fear should be face everything and rise. So that's
Love
just
that.
exactly the message that you're sharing with the audience through your story. So thanks, Anastasia.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, next we have Elizabeth Izquierdo. Welcome to our show today, Elizabeth.
Hi, Christie. Thank you so much.
I am really excited to have you with us today. You have gone through a ton, and I know some of your story really resonated with me because a lot of it, or, a few pieces of it were very similar to my story. But let's go ahead. I don't want to give it all away. I don't want to share your story. I want you to share your story. So can you give us a little brief overview of what you shared with us on the pages of our next Overcoming Mediocrity book?
Well, yes. So I started out with, life is going along, and all of a sudden, things, if they weren't hard enough already, then they became even harder to the point where it was, kind of a storm, kind of almost like a biblical storm, one thing right after the other, testing me, testing my faith, testing my family, my endurance. But what happened was this section of my story that I'm telling this season was that my husband of 25 years had 3 heart attacks and a 4th heart attack. And after the 4th heart attack, he ended up leaving. Whole family was turned upside down, and this happens to a lot of people, I think. And my message partly would be to, don't give up, keep going. And so the house went into forbearance. I did kind of desperate things to keep paying the mortgage. A while back, there were a lot of payday loan establishments, and I would literally drive around from payday loan to try to collect enough money to be able to pay the mortgage so we wouldn't lose the house every month. And it went on for quite some time. And, and then if that wasn't enough, then the car broke down. Then I lost like 5 family members, my mom, my dad, my aunt, my uncle, another aunt. And it just seems like this wouldn't stop. And I call it a true storm because, I think God was testing me, and, and I certainly was being tested. I never thought I would be able to get through and do the things, I did. So.
But you did.
Yeah. And after that had stopped, finally everything had calmed down. I thought, well, I had some renewed strength, and I finally started to do things that I had always wanted to do. I went back to school, finished my degree at the age of 59. I was the first one within my immediate family to earn a college degree, which was very important to me. And I had a lot of naysayers, everybody, oh, you're too old, or, oh, why don't you sell the house? You're too old, But I don't think it's ever too late to follow your dreams or, fulfill your passions, and don't give up is my big message. And you're never too old.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know so many times when we feel so overwhelmed, it's really hard to see what's on the other side. And you went through a ton, and it seemed like, they just kept coming at you. And I'm sure that there were many times you wanted to give up and you didn't. And I know there's probably people in the audience right now that are feeling that like they want to give up. And so if you could speak to just one person right now that is out there that feels so completely overwhelmed that they cannot see a better future for themselves, what would be the one piece of advice that you'd want to share with them?
I would definitely say don't give up, have grit, and just take one day at a time. Follow your heart, follow your conscience, and just remember that this season does get better. It does pass. The storm does pass, and there are a lot of rainbows in the storm. When I was, when I didn't have a car, when the car broke, I got into a car accident. I had 2 friends that both loaned me their cars so I could get to work. And then people at work, I was trying to make overtime and people would give me their hours. And those were the rainbows during the storm, all that. And many times I felt like I was by myself, but I really wasn't. There was a lot of people helping me. And after the storm, then you kind of realize those things.
Yes, that is so true. Yeah, you can't see the rainbow sometimes until you get to the point where you're on the other side of the storm. And then the rainbows shine so brightly that you're like, oh, it's so beautiful.
Yes, very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. I know you have a successful career right now and you're doing amazing. And I know it's probably difficult for you to kind of dredge back some of those old feelings, but you did it for a reason. And I really appreciate that because, we all want to help other people rise through their storms and get on the other side so then they can see their rainbows too. So I appreciate you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Christie.
All right. Well, next we have Mara Stefan. Mara, welcome to the show today. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thanks so much, Christie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we were introduced. It's been over a year now. I can't believe it's been so long. And I think we were actually working on the last book when you were introduced by another author.
That's
And
right.
I met you. I had a great conversation with you. And I know the book you're working on that, I'm not sure the release date yet, but I'm super excited for that to come out. But in the meantime, you decided to join our project and you have an incredible story. So do you want to go ahead and give our audience a sneak peek at what they will learn from reading about you through our next Overcoming Mediocrity book?
Yeah, sure. So my story's, I've been a single working mom, 2 boys, hockey mom, really career-minded as long as I can remember. And I've owned a business, and we're really lucky that I was able to own the business at a time when my mom was quite ill before she died. And I think back to what it's like for women in the workforce today and the need for flexible work arrangements. And for me at that time, and I'm going back about a decade, being able to have the flexibility to take care of my mom and my young son only happened because I was self-employed. And if you think about women in the world of work and the workforce, and I sit in a corporate role now, so many women kind of coming through the pandemic left the workforce and haven't come back. And they can't find childcare. They're wrangling the kind of who's going to do what at home. And I'm really passionate about trying to find a way to use my experience and my lessons learned to help this next generation of women in the world of work and helping to think about building communities, thinking about flexible work arrangements. I think many of us are reading about and seeing the kind of hybrid work models. They're working, they're not working. People are productive, they're not productive, and really being able to kind of get our arms wrapped around it. And in my professional day job, I think about this all the time, and it's a part of the work that I'm doing, research and things like that. And so my story is really just born out of I've been there, I understand, and it's really hard to manage all of this. Doesn't get easier. And I'd say the myth of being challenged with young kids at home is true, but those kids that are in their mid-teens and you're off to basketball, soccer, hockey, whatever it may be, easily as challenging for me, and I would guess many others as well. And so the point that I'm trying to think about is, are women leaning in or falling out of the workforce? And that really comes out of the seminal work that Sheryl Sandberg did with her book that was released in 2013, the same year my mom died. And my chapter really kind of hones in on that as a pivotal moment and just why I have kind of managed to come from that moment to this one now.
Absolutely. I know for me, over a decade as well, when I was a single mom with kids and, it was really hard for me to find a good paying job because I was really limited with my schedule. And because I had 2 kids to take care of as a single mom. I mean, they're my priority. And I see that with my daughter now too. So I know it's a really difficult place for single parents in general to be able to still be a good mom and have a good income so they can support their children. So I love the work you're doing. I love the research and I love what you're putting together to really make a difference going forward.
Thank you so much. I really think it's like flexibility is the new currency, if you think about it, right?
Ooh, love that.
Yeah,
Love that.
that's the way
It,
I'm looking at it.
yeah. And you know, before the pandemic, I, a lot of people didn't even know what Zoom was. They didn't know how to do virtual meetings. And that is
Right.
one good thing that came out of all of that. And so hopefully the progression continues and this flexible workspace environment becomes the norm, because I think that would really, it would really make a huge difference in many ways.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, let me ask you, if there is one single parent out there right now who just feels completely overwhelmed and they want to like move forward in a direction that is better, like based on your experience, what kind of advice can you share with that person?
I think, you know, some of your other authors also kind of talked about it. Number one, you're not alone. And I think that feeling of isolation when you think it's just you and this is what I've got to deal with, that's not true. I think there are so many people that are silently struggling with how to manage the work life and the career. And it is a bit of a myth, like having it all and trying to get it all done. Maybe that's not realistic anymore. And the need for flexibility becomes more important than the need for the biggest salary. Maybe there's a salary that's just slightly less. It depends on what kind of support you have. And for those women, you know, there are alternatives. There are other ways. There are potentially other employers that will support the needs of a woman, particularly one that has a lot of responsibilities to juggle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is so true. So thank you, Mara. I really appreciate you being on the show today and sharing your story in our next book.
Thanks so much, Christie.
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, last but not least, today on the show, I want to introduce you all to Liz Orvis. I was introduced to Liz again from another one of our authors, and she is an incredible woman. She is making a huge difference in the world, and I'm going to let her explain a little bit about that. Liz, welcome today. I'm really happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So give us the lowdown. Tell us a little bit about your story and why it is so important for this story to get out there to be heard by really the whole world.
Sure. Well, I always thought I needed to change the world. That was my goal. And I started out by volunteering with the Muscular Dystrophy Association, helping a bunch of families out, volunteering at camp, raising money to try and like just find a cure, and things have gotten so much better. And then I became in college, I was fighting to end hunger and homelessness in the United States, and I raised money and awareness, but it didn't, obviously it didn't fix everything. And then I became a special ed teacher and got my master's, and I was like, I'm going to make change in this field. But then I kind of crashed. I found out that I had severe bipolar and OCD, and I ended up in the hospital at least 50 times. And we tried every medicine combination. We tried every kind of therapy. I even did electroconvulsive or shock therapy. I did a long-term facility, like nothing was working. And then I was in this terrible, terrible place. And I realized like what I needed to do was fight for people like me. I needed to spread the message that people with mental illness are just that, people. And there's such a stigma, and there's such a lack in funding and a lack in knowledge, that there are a lot of people like me really struggling. And so I made it my mission to start spreading awareness, supporting people like me, supporting family members of people like me, and just really starting the discussion. And it started with a blog. I started doing a post once a week, and then I had the opportunity to do this chapter, which was really exciting. And then now I have turned my blog into a memoir, which will be coming out in not too long. We're in the editing stages. But what is so funny is I thought I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do. But then I learned this quote that is, when we plan, God laughs. And that is so true, because I thought I had to do this by myself. I thought I had to change the world, and that if I didn't do it, nobody was going to. And then I just recently got this job with the state of Michigan where I'm going to be working with other people to develop crisis stabilization units, which are an alternative to hospitals that will be available to all people of different financial statuses, that will hopefully keep people from having to be hospitalized long term, that will help develop natural supports and help people find counseling. And it's just an incredible opportunity. And I had no idea that that was my path. I had no idea that that's what God had in store for me. And I also think about Jerry Lewis used to sing on the MDA telethon, "You'll Never Walk Alone," which has kind of been the theme of today. And, I forgot I was walking alone. I was trying to do this by myself. And now I realize there are so many people on board and there are so many people cheering for me. And I think together we really can make a difference in the mental health system. So
that is so good. So I know I've experienced a little bit of a journey in that mental health world arena with some family members. And I know it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating on many levels, just about the type of care, the quality of care, and the care that is being provided isn't always the right. I mean, I don't know. I think there's not one best plan. And that's what makes it so hard for the doctors. There isn't like one diagnosis that gets this treatment process, right? Every person is completely different, and you have to almost have a very unique cocktail plan for every person. So I know the whole thing is very frustrating for many people on many levels. But what I love about you when I first met you is you definitely have a mission to change the world, and you were out, maybe still are, but doing it on your own to change legislation and to talk to lawmakers. And, you were telling me all these amazing things that you are doing. And I'm so excited now that you're not doing it alone anymore, because that's when the impact is really going to happen. The fact that you're working with the state of Michigan and you're putting these crisis stabilization units together all over the state. And I know it's a groundbreaking, I don't know if it's an experiment or not, but it's a groundbreaking venture because there's only a few states that have this. And I think it's going to really make a huge difference to help so many people, all of the homelessness in the world. There's so many people that need support and they're just being neglected and they're not able to get the help. And so they're all people just like us. So they need treatment just like us, just like when we go to the hospital with a broken leg, we need treatment just like they need treatment. So I tip my hat to you, girl, because I know it's not always easy, because you're still struggling at times through the roller coaster ride of, what's going on with the chemical imbalances in your body. But yet you keep going, you keep getting up every day or keep moving forward. And it's really cool to see that.
Thank you.
You have taken your mess and have turned it into your big mission.
Yeah.
And that being said, I know we want people to buy the book. We want people to read your story. And when they read your story, I believe you have something that you're sharing with the audience, correct?
I do. Yeah. I have a newsletter that I publish once a month, and in it I do like an educational topic, and then I do a little update on what I'm doing in the writing, editing, publishing field, and then I answer a question, any question about mental health. So I would like to offer that to anybody who's interested. And also, if you sign up to get the monthly newsletter, you will also receive a preview of the first chapter of my memoir. So,
ooh, I love that.
yeah.
Good for you. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for being on the show today. And being courageous to share your journey with the whole world, because it's one thing to get in a room and talk to an audience, because I know you do that. You're like a really big advocate for mental health, but now your book is going to be, your story is going to be read by many people in many states, many countries, many nationalities, and it's all about making a difference. And that's why you're doing it. So I want to thank you.
Thank you. It's so exciting.
Yeah. So thanks, everybody, for hanging with us today and sticking through the whole show to meet these 5 incredible women. And do not go away. make sure you subscribe to our show, because next week we're going to have 5 more incredible women where you're going to get to meet them, hear about their stories, and some of them have free gifts as well. And if you like our show, before I say that, I just want to let you know that this Overcoming Mediocrity book is our 12th book in the series. And every woman that is in the book has their contact information there. So you can reach out to them. You can go to our website, connect with them. You could buy their books. You could get an autographed copy. So if you have one of the authors that you feel that, hey, I really resonate with her story, reach out to her. She would love to sign a book and send it to you. And of course, if you like our show, please show us love on whatever platform you listen, because the more support we get from our listeners, the best chance we have of continuing to move forward with our project and get incredible guests in our books, as well as future episodes of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. So thanks, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Mastery Unleashed podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams by turning their mess into their greatest message and following their purpose to help the people who need their newfound wisdom and resources. To learn more, visit masteryunleashedpodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review to this show.